Hi, Elizabeth. Did you want to kick off, or did you want me to just take start sharing?
Go ahead. Yeah, go on.
So, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for coming to today's meeting. I know that you've all seen the really exciting agenda that we've got. So, just a quick introduction. So, I'm Francesca Pryor. I'm from Southampton City Council and the Employment Support Team. And then, obviously, Elizabeth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Elizabeth Taylor. I'm the Chief Executive at ERSA. And as you all know, we've been doing lots of the youth employment space, and we're bringing together the Youth Forum and the Youth Hubs Forum this afternoon with a very exciting agenda. So, thank you.
Excellent. And is Andy on the call?
He is, Andrew Morton.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Did you want to introduce yourself? Because you're on the list, so.
Okay, sure. My name is Andy Morton. I've just started as the local labour market policy officer at ERSA. The main thing I've been working on so far is on a paper on Kickstart. So I've been looking at that and talking to ERSA members in building that, and hopefully we should have a draft sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks. So I think most people who have joined or who are going to join have joined. The number seems to have stayed at the same for a while. So I think let's just jump straight in, and if I can invite Dan Jones from Youth Futures Foundation, that would be wonderful. Can't see everybody. I don't know. Dan, are you on the call?
I can see that Aaron's here from Youth Futures. Is your colleague with us now, Aaron, or are you doing this?
It should be Dan. I've just invited him to join the call. I'm not sure where he is.
Okay, we'll talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
I just think I should tell a joke, and the minute anything like this happens, I couldn't think of a single joke right now.
Well, I can say that I'm really enjoying the sunshine that's wonderful in Southampton. I know that it's not going to last, but has everyone else got lots of sunshine? Oh.
Well, I'm in London for meetings for the first time since face-to-face meetings since March 2020. So I'm a bit giddy, actually. I've just been on the 73 bus.
We've just had to, so in our office, we've got no blind. We're waiting for a new one to be put up, which is fine, but it's so bright that we've had to put up a gazebo side against the window because our laptops were overheating, we were overheating, and I couldn't see anything. I was having to work with sunglasses on in an office. So, yeah.
Somebody, I can see Tony's put something about the agenda. Has everybody seen the agenda, Laura?
Sorry, I just assumed everybody had seen it because it had come out. So, okay, so at some point soon, we will have Dan from Youth Futures Foundation talking about new grants and things that are available. We also then have Sharon Wheatman to talk about ESF NEET and youth employment programmes in Greater Manchester. We have Christina Orlando, who's a research fellow, talking about evidence-based results to support young people through youth hubs. And then we have Mark Whitmore from Standout and talking about online and mentoring programmes. And then we have our Youth Hubs Roundtable, where we'll hopefully be able to just share some, thoughts, things around challenges, what's working, talking about positive news and things. So that's today's agenda. So has Dan joined us? Okay. So I'm just trying to catch up on.
He's not. No, he's not quite here. So I don't know whether we want to start the next session, then come back to Dan when he joins us. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right, it happens. So Sharon, are you okay to jump in?
Yes, I'm feeling the pressure now. I thought I could get to listen for a while.
Thank you.
You're going to test me now, aren't you? Thank you, Francesca. So I'm Sharon Wheatman, and I'm the Senior Project Manager for the ESF programme that we are just about to launch in Greater Manchester. It literally goes live on the chest tomorrow. So thank you for allowing us to come and give you an outline of it today. Really would welcome any thoughts or feedback, and obviously if anyone is interested in having a chat about potentially bidding or being part of any supply chains, we'd be really happy to have a chat with you. So I will just share my screen. I've got a few slides to run through, which will hopefully work. There we go. Has that appeared on everybody's screen?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
fabulous. So just to kind of set a little bit of context, we have a Greater Manchester strategy that's been in place for a few years now and is currently undergoing a refresh, really to kind of hone down the priorities and give us some clarity around what we are doing together across Greater Manchester. And as you can see in red on the first slide, our first priority is for our young people, and it's to make sure that they leave education and training ready to succeed in the labour market with a balance of academic, technical and life-ready skills. So within that, we have a key focus on making sure young people have a clear line of sight into education, training and employment opportunities, and particularly for those young people who are not in education, employment and training, and for young adults who may never have worked or possibly only done so sporadically. What we're looking to do is create tailored support to help them build skills, employability, confidence, aspirations and hope for the future. And I think just to say on this, because I've had a number of conversations with kind of existing providers, this is not saying that we don't have great provision already and we don't have some really fabulous programs available. But what we're trying to do through this new program is offer something for those young people who need more hand-holding, more support, more time with them in order to help them progress into potentially some of our other existing programs and opportunities. So last year we developed the Greater Manchester Young Persons Guarantee as a response to the COVID pandemic, but it is now evolving into more of our approach of how we work with young people across the sub-region. And this is just a snapshot of what they told us last year in terms of what is important, what was important to them at that point. So it was probably about this time last year. So in the first column, you can see 40% of the young people said jobs and training was what was really important to them at that point. In terms of what they needed support with now, 65% said employment opportunities. So, huge kind of majority of young people really concerned about employment skills and their opportunities there. And in terms of what the coronavirus pandemic affected the most, education and training, again, just out in front there, and employment and health and well-being kind of just behind that. So just to say, we're doing a follow-up piece of work with those young people again now, just to see a little bit, a year on, are they still the priorities? Are they still the things that are worrying young people? But we wanted to create a programme that really reflected what those young people were telling us. So the exciting programme overview. So what we've been doing over the last few weeks and months is we've mapped our existing provision. And I think just to say, one of the really key things that young people said to us when we started that engagement last year was that there was a common theme of there's no support available, there's nothing in my locality, I can't go and find it, I don't know what there is. And people like me, so I've recently moved from a local authority to the combined authority, and people like me were saying, no, there's all these things and you can go here and there's this programme and there's that programme. And I think what was really clear was young people just didn't know what was available. We didn't have a place where they could access it. So I think, there's real connection here into the development of the youth hubs, because what young people said is, I want a place where I can go and I can talk to someone who can help me find the right thing for them. And even, I know it's really tiny on the slide, but kind of in the bottom left-hand corner, we've had to look at some of our information and access points. And, while we have quite a few, they're not really joined up. So, you know, we have a GMAX website, we have youth hubs in our localities, but they look and feel different depending where you are. Some local authorities have got connections, some haven't. We've then got a range of websites where you can go and find opportunities, and it's just not really joined up. So we mapped out all of our provision, and that's quite a high level diagram of it, but there is a lot. And we looked at our data analysis of our NEET cohorts, and what we found was, whilst there's a lot of provision, the actual numbers haven't really shifted for a long time. And there's a group of young people, and it's growing post-COVID, a group of young people who don't really fit in the mould of our kind of traditional, more mainstream programmes. So, you know, they're not going to just engage and then move fairly quickly into a learning programme and then kind of sustain that, because they need more time and they need more hand holding. So we spoke with our local authorities, we talked to our existing providers, we've had some really great sessions with our colleges to really get underneath, you know, who are the young people who need this different support, who is not being picked up by existing programmes, you know, who are you struggling with in local authorities. And again, we've spoken to young people just to kind of get that feedback around, you know, what are you aware of, what works, why does some things work better than others. And what we've come up with is a programme that has an absolute focus on transition, engagement and well-being. And I think, again, a real connection into the emerging youth hubs that are kind of just starting to go live now. We can be face-to-face again across the sub-region to really look at how can these be a focal point for young people if they're not quite sure, you know, kind of where to go, how can we make sure that they know where to go and they know where to find different opportunities. We've built into the programme incentivised support for the most disadvantaged, and this was really reflecting on, again, some of my own experience from a locality where we kind of tried to refer young people who do need that more intensive support, and they either get picked up by provision but then they drop out because it wasn't really right, or they don't actually sign up to provision because it's not right for them and it doesn't have that time built in for that enhanced support. So what we've really looked at is a programme where the focus is on a distinct prioritised group of young people, and we're very clear that's who we want the providers to work with. And we have recognised that it's a 15 to 24 age range, so that's quite wide ranging. So we've split that into 2 lots just to make sure that there is the right kind of focus on those different young people and their ages. So I won't read this whole slide, but we can share them after the event. But in terms of scope of the programme, it's across Greater Manchester, but again, we've been really clear. We don't want a one-size-fits-all model because we have 10 local areas. Each of them has different neighbourhoods and different priorities, and we want a really great supply chain across all of this programme, across the 2 lots, so that, you know, the people who are doing the boxing club on a Friday night, or who are going out supporting antisocial behaviour, or are doing kind of creative media radio type offers, actually have a place at the table, and because they are the people who can, based in a community, work with the young people and engage them in a different way. So our focus is on young people who've been affected by missed education, missed opportunities, and or are disengaged from those mainstream skills support offers and aren't in employment and training. So we will go live hopefully in January next year, and this programme will run until September 2023. And over that time, we expect 6,000 young people to start across both of the lots, and a minimum of 45% of those young people to progress into a kind of defined traineeship, apprenticeship study programme. But we are very reflective on that is a minimum of 55% of the participants who won't have a formal outcome. And what we're saying with that is we expect 80% as a minimum. We'd really like that to be higher, of those young people to complete the kind of identified support, to work with their key worker, mentor, whatever the model is, and to have a really clear transition as they leave the programme. So it's not a programme where if you reach the end and you haven't achieved an outcome, that's it, and the provider will step away. They have to show to us in the combined authority that, you know, the young person may have made a benefit claim and are now hooked into a work coach and wider support through DWP. They may be accessing counselling in order to address some barriers and issues, and then they have a plan. They could be doing work experience with a view to then moving into a traineeship or another option. So it's very, very much for us about the quality of the experience and the distance travelled, so that each young person who comes through the programme is moving forward and in some way towards the working skills outcome, although it may not be achieved within the lifetime of the programme. So we have minimum service delivery standards, and they are all focused around the level of engagement, the quality of engagement, the distance travelled, what is the engagement of the young person. And within the model, we have set an expectation that everything has to be co-designed with young people. So it's really heavily weighted in the evaluation. We are saying to providers, we have to see the voice of the young people from the priority groups throughout your whole model. We want to understand how they've influenced your delivery. And we do have a panel of young people who will be doing kind of a final assessment of a final presentation for our strongest bidders. So a real focus on co-design, but also on young people having some say in actually, is that the right model and who's going to be successful? We're looking at a collaboration. As I said, we want really wide-ranging partnership, and we want, whilst we want 2 lead bidders, we do want to see a really strong community partnership with delivery in the wider supply chain. And we will be carrying out an evaluation, which we're really happy to bring back to this group as we take it forward. But that's about looking at, how is this programme making a difference? What are the lessons learned, and how can that inform future commissioning of future programmes? So lot 1 is for young people aged 15 to 19 and is really about proactively connecting with 3,000 vulnerable young people who are disengaged from mainstream education and work services. So we're looking for a programme of activity that will help us to decrease the levels of young people who've been identified by a local authority, a school, alternative provision, wherever they are, have been identified as risk of NEET. We want to reduce the numbers of those young people who actually become NEET. For those who do become NEET, we want to reduce the disparity between our care leavers, our young people with SEND, our lone parents, and all of our other young people. We want to try and close that gap. We want to reduce the number of young people 16 to 18 whose situation is not known. So those of you working in local authorities, that's to support the tracking and actually, again, understanding where young people become not known, what's the background to that? How can we kind of work more closely with them to reduce that disengagement, and ultimately to increase the participation levels across all the priority groups. So we have a draft model. We're not precious about this, but we will be sharing this with providers because we want it to be really clear that there's a network in terms of referral and identification of key partners who need to be involved in that, and a good degree of outreach as well, certainly to kind of find the unknowns. There's a very clear element of proactive outreach and engagement. So, not just sitting back and waiting for lists of referrals, but getting out, talking to young people, understanding what they're looking for and building the model around that. And then the delivery model as well is very much focused on face-to-face support. There is an element of blended delivery to develop digital skills, but what we're saying is we don't expect it all to be through Teams and these kind of channels, because these young people that we're targeting will need a brew in a coffee shop, going out and actually hand-holding and taking them to some of their appointments and really helping them. So we're looking at a mentor life coach model that kind of encompasses health and well-being, signposting and guidance. And as I said earlier, our outcomes could be around re-engaging into learning, moving into work or skills training. But for us, there is a high degree of focusing on completion and actually just, not just, but moving those young people into something that's not a true ESF outcome, but actually is a true transition for that young person. So I won't read all of these again, but the priority groups are the young people who are most at risk of NEET, have missed education, disengaged with wider services, experiencing wider barriers, and those who aren't known to local authorities. So we've got a suggested list of priority groups, but we are also inviting bidders to suggest others. If a bidder comes to us and says, I know in this area there's a real gap for this group of young people and we think we can do something to address that, we're really happy through the kind of evaluation process to have those discussions. So lot 2 is young people who are aged 18 to 24. So again, 3,000 young people, but for this one, it's about not being in an employment, education or training. And the objectives of the programme are to reduce the number of young people aged 18 to 24 who are not in work, training or employment, again, to reduce the gap for our most disadvantaged groups and across Greater Manchester. And there is also a focus within this one of working with Job Centre Plus around some of those young people who, you know, haven't been able to access Kickstart opportunities because they might need just, again, that hand holding and a bit more help. So, and a focus on our hidden young people who aren't claiming benefits, but actually do need that support to get them into positive transitions. So again, focus for this group is on, you know, young people whose situation is not known, those who are inactive in the labour market, and those who are unemployed and claiming out of work benefits. We do also have scope within this programme to look at young people who might be on 0 hours contracts, or, you know, can evidence that they're in quite risky employment, shall we say. And so again, we could look at including them, and we're really keen to hear from bidders around their experience and the kind of other target groups that we might want to look at. So all bidders will need to have a good understanding of trends, track record of developing, delivering person-centred re-engagement transition support, an engagement model that clearly targets those who are disengaged, and a really great knowledge of existing support offers, because we don't want to duplicate. This has to do something that other offers aren't doing within the network. And obviously it is ESF funded, so they will need a good understanding of ESF compliance and funding rules. We can help with that then. Really quickly, in terms of procurement, we held a market engagement event yesterday. So we had around about 75 partners joined us for that. We have recorded that session, so if anyone in the group today wants to get a link for that, I've popped an email on the end of the slides where you can get in touch with us and we can send you that. The programme will be launched on the Cheth tomorrow. It is open for bidders who are already approved on the Greater Manchester Flexible Procurement System. But for anyone who wants to be part of their supply chain, you don't have to be on the FPS. And due to the nature of the programme, as we said, we are really strongly encouraging collaboration. In coming and hearing from potential bidders who want to take a lead role, or other organisations who potentially want to be in the supply chain, or you feel you could have something to offer within a supply chain, if you just pop an email into the email address there by 5 o'clock this Friday, we'll just ask you to fill in a really quick template, and then you will get 90 seconds, which I know is really short, but we do have quite a lot of providers who already want to kind of make their pitch. But it's literally who you are, what you want to, how you want to engage, and the lead bidders will say through that session how they would like to engage with any wider partners. So if you do have, if you did have any questions related to the specification, they will all go through the chest. If you don't have access to the specification, etc., via the chest, you can pop any questions into our email there. And as I said, if you want to register for the collaboration workshop, or to view the recording of the market engagement, just pop us an email and we'd be really happy to share those with you. Now, I have no idea, Elizabeth, if I went hugely over time there or not, possibly slightly over, but hopefully that was useful, and we're really keen to hear from anyone who'd like to be involved.
That was quality information. Francesca, I'll hand back to you.
Thank you. No, that was brilliant. I'm quite disappointed that we're opposite ends of the country, really, because it sounds great. But just very quickly, did anybody have any questions while Sharon's here? Anything that anyone wanted to say? Okay, so Gavin.
Yeah. Hi, Sharon. I'm just wondering, because I'm on the board for Homeless Link as well, how your program is tied into Homeless Link, particularly with young people, cardboard citizens, and how you use them in terms of benchmarking your engagement, and how you engage particularly with those who are vulnerable, who are NEETs and who are homeless. At this particular time, it's been quite a challenge and difficult time for young people being pushed out of home or not engaged at all. And also, how are you engaging neurodiverse youth in this space, and what does that look like? And I just want to thank you for the wealth of information. I'm sorry I'm in London and I couldn't be involved in your program, but you know, I think it's a great model for us to consider and benchmark going forward? Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great question. So in terms of kind of youth engagement and homelessness in particular, what we're doing for bidders is we're giving them a kind of top tips and useful contacts list, which kind of points them in the direction of the teams who support care leavers, young people who are homeless, young carers. And we've really strongly recommended that they get in touch with them to understand what are the gaps and how do we engage with those young people, but also which partners working in Greater Manchester are doing some good work already, because ideally we'd like to passport some of that money to those providers and make sure that the people who can really offer that support get to do it. Sorry, my phone's just started ringing. I'll just sit on it that it doesn't interrupt me.
Thank you. Also, Tony had a question for you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I've been having trouble with my Teams. I'm on a phone now, so it's probably a bit weird. Thank you so much for such a great presentation. It's a really exciting programme. Very interested in it. I had a couple of things really jumped out at me, which lead to a question. So I was really pleased to hear about how you're going to insist on young people being part of the almost the consultation process and being part of the design and potentially, you know, the ongoing review and evaluation of the solution, which is wonderful. And the other thing that I think you said was that about 45% of participants are going to move into some form of outcome, be it, you know, employment, be it training, be it, you know, perhaps an introduction to another programme, which is great as well. And with that, I suppose I was interested in combining those two and thinking about how you might have been engaging the business community in Manchester to be part of both the design, perhaps even the commissioning. You might have done something already, but how are you going to make sure that it's going to be suitable for businesses and meet their needs, I guess is my question.
That's a really good point, Tony, and one that I should have covered, and I'll make sure it's in all my future presentations. So what we've done, we've been working really closely with colleagues in the Combined Authorities Skills Intelligence team. So they are currently working with a whole range of providers to look at what are those skills gaps, what are the jobs that are coming up. They're commissioning separate skills programs, and what we've been doing, and again in the help document we've signposted to this. So we've worked with them to look at, you know, where are the gaps and where are the kind of things that, you know, young people could be looking at and might not actually know about. And again, we've then engaged with some of our wider partners to look at, so things like digital. It's not, you know, you don't have to code to do digital. There are loads and loads of different things. So we've started to talk to partners around, you know, how can we enthuse young people to understand that the, you know, the skills that they've got in creativity actually are really applicable there. So that's some of the things we've talked to partners about, and what we've said to them as well is we want to understand how, you know, what links do they have to local employers so that we can assess are they the right links. And we are also trying to tie that into a wider piece of work around how do we actually do employer engagement in a more joined up way. So we've not got lots of different programs all knocking on the same doors, but we've actually got a better conduit so that we can get the right opportunities to the right young people. So that's probably a bit more of a work in progress, but it is very much on our radar. Francesca, you're on.
Thank you. I'd managed to knock it and put myself on mute. So just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that Laura has put in an email address if you have any further questions for Sharon or her team. And also Tracy has from Transform Lives has just said, did you mention the budget?
The budget for the overall programme, so it is a £10 million project. I probably didn't, and it's a really good point. So it's £5 million maximum for each lot.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So thank you, Sharon. Okay, I'm going to try again. Is Dan Jones from Youth Futures Foundation on now? No.
No, I don't think he is. His colleague is trying to get hold of him. I'm trying to get hold of him. He had accepted. Should we just keep going with the agenda?
Yeah, we'll just keep going. So with that, could I please ask Christina, are you okay to talk us through the results?
Hello everyone. Hi. Thanks, Francesca. Yeah, I'm happy to go next. You'll just have to bear with me a second because I'll have to bring up my presentation and it might take a minute to open. So that's just loading. If you give it 30 seconds, it should come up on your screens soon enough. Right, is that on people's screens now?
Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, great to be here today. Great to hear Sharon's presentation. I think a lot of the things I'll say we'll pick up on some of those elements that Sharon shared as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see that comparison between sort of what the evidence from theory and practice tells us and then how it's actually being implemented in current programs. What Greater Manchester is doing sounds like a really amazing work, and I'll probably be in touch with you, Sharon, to learn a bit more about the delivery and how that will be going. So most of you, if not all, will be involved in delivery of the new youth employment interventions and will be by now in the process of establishing or running one of the more than 100 DWP youth hubs. And at the heart of the youth hub concept is supporting young people through a one-stop shop approach, meaning their success is highly based on the degree of co-location, partnership, service integration that providers on the ground would achieve. But developing effective cross-sector and interagency work is easier said than done because partnership journeys are quite complex. They require time, resource and capacity and strong mutual understanding and trust between all partners to work well. And the quality of the support journeys that then are provided to young people and whether young people have seamless and coherent journeys through those through that support is highly dependent on whether these elements work well. So to help you in this journey, IES will develop a set of what works evidence-based resources, including a partnership guide and a case study collection. And today I'll just give you a quick overview of the key insight provided in these resources and the evidence we have collected and analysed around the key components of developing effective youth hubs can be really distilled into the three main elements here. So developing partnerships, how to manage partnerships effectively, and then how we can engage young people in meaningful ways. So the first element on the journey is developing the partnership. Now, what does this mean? It includes building a true partnership ethos, meaning partners join forces in a true way as a result of a shared vision and commitment to young people rather than because of forced sort of relationships or just looking at KPIs. It's about establishing no wrong doors, basically meaning having more systematic linking of services and less vertical journeys through one service at a time. It's about joining up resources through service integration and skills and knowledge sharing. And it's about involving young people in the design and development of the intervention from the very start, because they are the experts by experience. They're the ones who are most able to tell us what they want and what they need and what they will be engaging with. A final key element is to also consider the local context carefully, including the local labour markets and geography and the opportunities and challenges that these pose to youth employment, particularly now that we're seeing that lots of local economies and labour markets are changing quite fast, to make sure that the offer is relevant to the local context. So, but what do these principles mean in practice? So cases where we can see these concepts have been applied in the past are, for example, the Youth Employment Initiative in England, which was aiming to support meet young people into positive destinations, and it was focused on developing local approaches to try and meet local needs, so a very localised approach and place-based approach, and required bidders to demonstrate strong knowledge of the local areas and of collaborative work, similarly to what Sharon was talking about just a few minutes ago. So this meant that from day one, there was really intensive work to try and scope and involve potential partners before the bid went through, and a good understanding of the local area, which was preliminary to any service being developed. And this made a real difference to the quality of the delivery later on. Another example is the Engage project in Wales, which looked to support young people at risk of becoming NEET and used a three-way approach. They placed youth workers and restorative justice workers in schools to provide support in the place where young people were already engaging or were at risk of disengaging, but they could still get them at that last point of contact. And they partnered with Careers Wales as well to ensure warm referrals from career services, and they worked with schools to develop transition support offers for students leaving education in the summer. So this strong networked approach ensured that no young people would be turned away from support and would fall through the gaps. The Youth Employment Gateway instead, which was run in Liverpool and focused on supporting young benefit claimants into work, had a strong focus on the sharing of resources and knowledge. So what they did was to develop joint ventures with JCP, such as employability and IT courses, to try and strengthen referral routes. They sourced wraparound support for clients through collaboration with council services, and they worked with smaller local providers, which would have otherwise not usually engaged, to try and develop specialist support where this was not already available. Talent Match instead is a good example of involving young people in building partnerships and at that very first stage. So young people sat on interview panels for the selection of delivery partners. Again, an element which was picked up by by Sharon as well. They participated in collaborative workshops to inform intervention design, and they also participated in outreach work. And what was really key was that they were treated as equal partners, and they provided that key service user perspective, which was essential to designing a good intervention. And lastly, Getting Ahead is an example of good understanding of the local context. So two of the key partners on this intervention, which supported NEET young people in Wales once again, had an established presence in the community and really strong knowledge of both the local labour market and of the employers in the area. So this enabled the programme to source a wider range of work placements in key local sectors, and it ensured that the placements were individually tailored, which really decreased the risk of a mismatch between the young people's skills and the local opportunity. So following this, the second element on the journey is managing the partnerships. So key elements here are about developing effective referral practices by really investing in relationship building early on, ensuring good data governance by building trust between partners to support good data sharing practices, because that's often when a lot of the hurdles sort of emerge and are quite difficult to overcome. It's about building in monitoring and evaluation processes from the very start to assess the progress and impact of the interventions as they progress. And it's about promoting positive relationships at every stage, basically maintaining open and regular communication across all levels and stages of the partnership. And what this means in practice is, for example, what we can see with the Liverpool Youth Employment Gateway. Again, engagement and coordination with Job Centre Plus was a key aspect of the intervention. So beyond co-location, what partners did was to hold joint workshops and group information sessions to try and develop shared knowledge of their respective roles, and look to really work together to implement a shared database, which allowed YEG staff, so the Youth Employment Gateway staff, to know when the Job Centre Plus clients met their 8-week eligibility criteria to then be transferred onto the YEG programme. An example of good data sharing practices can be found in the Glasgow Youth Employability Partnership, which was a multi-agency partnership in Glasgow, which was really important to the reduction of youth unemployment in the area, and it developed sort of across over a decade. So the YEP worked with Skills Development Scotland, which was the national skills development agency in Scotland, to develop a single shared management information system, which was used both by schools and support agencies working with young people to tackle the big issue that Glasgow was experiencing around gaps in school leavers data. In terms of good monitoring and evaluation practice, a practical example is what Developing the Young Workforce is doing, again, in Scotland. So Developing the Young Workforce works through employer-led regional groups and has a dedicated executive team which is responsible for monitoring activities and progress across all of the groups. So this includes tracking the DYW progress against the local key performance indicators and then reporting back to the Scottish Government, which enables the government then to do yearly performance evaluation reports and sharing insight and learning on impact and progress of the intervention. So this, of course, is done at a national scale, but it can be replicated sort of within regional and local council, local areas contexts as well. The activity agreement pilots, which many of you will remember, were run until 2011, and they were designed for young people aged 16 and 17 who were neat. They're an example instead of promoting positive relationships between partners. So in some local areas, the programme was able to develop a sort of win-win approach whereby agencies who referred young people into the programme were then able to register entry to the programme as a positive outcome for themselves, allowing them to also advance their own targets. And this is sort of quite a good approach, because often what we hear is that one of the difficulties in developing partnerships is that services are quite protective and possessive about the young people they're supporting, and don't always refer them on or signpost them to the services that they might support them best. And this was based in the activity agreements pilots case on staff's early days efforts to try and improve shared understanding among referral partners about the ways they could work together in a mutually beneficial way. And finally, the third element, of course, and one of the most, perhaps the most important one, is engaging young people themselves, which includes building coherent pathways which are focused on providing young people with a smooth journey and a key point of reference at all times. It's about focus on holistic approaches which offer a package of services and wraparound support, including both core services such as employability support, but also add-on services like specialist support. It's about collaborating with a wide range of supporting specialist services to reach out to those young people which do not usually engage with mainstream services. And it's about embedding in-work support once that young people transition onto EET destinations through practical and emotional support to help young people sustain their positive destinations. And if not in-work support, if it's not employment, but post-programme support is really key to keep that engagement and those sustained positive destinations. So an example of Career Pathways is MyGo, which was a youth employment support service in Suffolk. The MyGo model was based on the integration of Job Centre Plus within the MyGo brand and identity. What this meant was that there was co-location of services, staff shared uniforms, there were joint social events, client registration meetings happened in a way that both Job Centre Plus and MyGo coaches were present, and they also shared a client caseload. Instead, the SEAL project was a Welsh Government initiative which supported youth offending teams across Wales to deliver additional intensive support to young people involved in the criminal justice system to help them transition into EET destinations. And one of the main strengths of the project was its young person-centred approach, where key workers really prioritised working at the young person's space and level and co-developing the support journeys together with them. So this approach relied on thorough assessments of participants' needs and strong relationships with partners to source the right support and develop bespoke solutions. So partners who were already engaging with these young people previously. The Engage project in Wales instead found that effective engagement of the 16 to 18 age group and at risk of NEET age group was proving quite hard. So this led to advisors from the project working out of Job Centre Plus offices twice a week to try and engage the group of young people who were regularly attending to claim benefits. The team also looked to engage local advisors from Communities First, which is a service working to support vulnerable and deprived groups in the community in Wales, as they had experience of targeting and engaging the harder to reach cohort. And this approach supported the engagement of around 500 additional young people, which the project wouldn't have been able to engage otherwise. And Talent Match, again, is a really good example of participants being offered sustained support after their engagement in the programme, which was provided either by the young person's key worker or because the young people who were being supported were entering employment. It was provided either by a key worker or by a member of the employer engagement team who had brokered the job opportunity. And the main type of support that was provided was either around the transition to work, including practical support or advice on workplace behaviour, or emotional support and issues which could impact the young person's ability to sustain their destination and support, and was also provided around progressing in their destinations, their work destinations. So this is a bit of an overview, a very quick run through the key elements and the key insight that's emerged from our work, but the resources were developed to provide an in-depth step-to-step guide and detailed insight into what good practice looks like. So the partnership guide outlines key practical steps and actions to successfully develop each stage, as well as a toolbox of resources that you can use to help yourself at each stage of the process, and a traffic light sort of exercise to check your progress. And the case study collection instead really drills down on what previous youth employment support partnerships have done, and the ones who have been able to demonstrate their success and outcomes, and what sort of outcomes they achieve, what worked well and less well in the interventions, and the key lessons we can take from them. So I strongly encourage everybody that's on the call today to sort of go and look at those resources, which again are very practical and hands-on. But at the same time, I will drop my email in the chat. I'm very happy to have any further conversations or answer any questions there.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. I've been busy scribbling down some notes. I know that somebody has asked, they weren't able to see your slides. The rest of us could, so we didn't let you talk through it. But somebody couldn't. So are you able to, are we able to just arrange for them to be sent out? I'm really sorry. For those of you that joined the meeting early, you'll know that I've got a bit of a gazebo blocking the sunlight, and it's just started falling off the wall. Sorry. I'm just going to move. I'm going to pull some funny faces, so I'm very sorry.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Very happy to share the slides. Sorry that you're having these not quite tech issues, Francesca, but you know, sorts of stuff that happens exactly when you don't need it to happen.
Francesca, do you want to turn your camera off, and I'll hold forward till you've sorted yourself out.
Thank you.
Okay. Have we got any questions for Christiana?
I can see one in the chat.
Oh, yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, thank you for your lovely presentation. I'm quite jealous of your slides. You got lovely graphics, infographics. I think I need lessons in infographics. So thank you for that. And as a neurodiverse person, I really appreciate those. And the way that was presented was easy to follow, and dyslexia. So thank you for that. I have a question around engaging young people and what good transition for youth looks like, and how is this tracked, particularly as schools have no method of tracking youth once they come out of school. And I work with school and ask the principal, well, what happens when the kids leave school? It's like a cliff face. There's no feedback to the schools at all. So really what I'm saying, can you in future do some joined up thinking with the schools and feedback into the schools as an organization, both on a national and within the borough level? I think the schools would find that incredibly useful to progress their advice and guidance programs, which some have and some haven't, but it also may provide incentive to provide advice and guidance programs and raise funds for them, as some schools just don't have them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for raising that, Gavin. First off, I'm really glad that the presentation came across as very visually sort of good. So that's really good to know, always good feedback. And in terms of tracking outcomes for young people who leave school or disengage, so we know there's a statutory requirement for schools to track young people's outcomes, but we know at the same time that that doesn't happen a lot, or if it happens, it doesn't happen to the degree and to the level where all of the data is available. There's lots of data gaps, and that often comes down to under-resourcing and underfunding experienced by schools, and just the very different systems. So there's a big push at the minute to try and support local authorities and pupil referral units to work more closely together and try and develop approaches and system whereby you know, no young person is sort of falls through the gaps. I know of some good practice examples. For example, Careers Wales has a great system. It's a neat traffic light system that allows them to engage with young people at risk of NEET who have become NEET at sort of the point when they disengage with the system. They've got really good connections with the local authorities. They've got really good connections with schools there, and they've been doing really great work, and they're receiving more funding now by the Welsh Government to develop it further. That's one example which I'm happy to share, and this is something that of course should be rolled out on a bigger national scale across the UK. But again, at this stage, what we can do, especially in research, is to try and share good practice and to try and share examples of how it's done. But we know that a lot of this comes down to whether the resources are there. So definitely a huge important element is to develop those relationships and develop that communication, making sure that people are linked in and that the different institutions, providers and services which are involved in the support of these young people are linked in and are speaking and communicating. But the other element of it is having adequate infrastructure and systems, which is something that we don't yet have at the level we should. But again, I'm very happy to share good practice examples together with my slides if people can find those useful. I hope that.
Can you share that case study with ERSA, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Has anybody else got any questions at all? Brilliant. Okay. So I'm very happy to say that I have seen that Dan has joined the call. So with that, Dan, am I able to hand over to you, please?
You are. I'm so sorry about that. One of those days that's just gone wrong. Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Jones. I'm working with the Youth Futures Foundation. Sorry that I'm coming late to this, and thanks very much for allowing us to come into your meeting. So I'm working with Youth Futures Foundation on the design of a funding program, grant funding program for place-based systems change. And Youth Futures Foundation exists to promote employment for young people from disadvantaged backgrounds in England. So that is very much obviously the kind of same area as ERSA members. So this is an opportunity for you to hear a little bit more about what we're thinking, but also to kind of help us think through the implications of the way that we're hoping to design the fund. So this is all, I will put a note round, but at the moment, this is all still work in progress. So I don't have a presentation, but I'll just tell you a few things about what we're doing and what we're thinking of doing. And it would be great then to get your thoughts and questions and help us understand whether the way we're describing what we're doing and launching it is going to work for potential bidders. So the aim of we're talking about it in terms of place-based systems change, but we aim to promote greater alignment in youth employment support across everything that might matter for disadvantaged young people as they're trying to get into employment. So we're not looking to fund sort of individual separate standalone initiatives. We want to support cross-sector collaborations that can bring services into better alignment, improve coordination, improve responsiveness, improve comprehensiveness. So that could mean solutions that improve kind of sharing of information, case management, ways of working between services, but it could also mean kind of shifting incentives or pooling funding or the way that services are oriented. It could mean new services, but new services that kind of plug gaps and hold things together. So what we're hoping for is solutions that provide that end up with better employment journeys for young people, more kind of personalized, holistic wraparound support so that those young people can get the right support at the right time from the right services. And we think to get that, we're going to want to see cross-sector mobilisation. So we're going to want to see bids that involve, or solutions that involve, employers, social care, health, criminal justice, as well as skills and employment support providers. So we want to see kind of genuine cross-sector things. So we are proposing to invest in a small number of places, but in this first instance, we're going to be inviting bids to develop collective action. So we recognise that not everyone will have all of the partnerships or all of the kind of shared commitments with agencies across sectors that they might need to do this work. So what we're looking at the moment is inviting places to kind of tell us how they understand the systems barriers in the place that they operate, who they think the key kind of actors and stakeholders are, and how they will work together to develop a shared analysis, a shared ambition, and kind of come back to us at the end, probably of a year, with ideas for a shared solution. And then what we'll hope to do is invest in a few of those shared solutions that the kind of shortlisted places have been working on, in order to support them to deliver those. So I guess one of the things that's kind of hard to do is help people understand what we mean, what systems change might mean. And so part of what I'd love to hear from you is if you hear that someone is inviting bids for systems change work, does that mean anything to you? What would you need to understand from us as a funder to help you understand whether you were the right bidders? And how can we kind of encourage these kind of collaborative bids? I guess particularly for people on this call, how can we make sure that we're giving you an open, a sort of level playing field so that you're able to make bids, but also how can we protect you from being kind of bid candy by statutory providers perhaps, or local authorities who are saying, great, we can do this place-based work, but we need to have someone from the third sector. Great, we'll just get an ERSA member in and they can be that. How can we make sure that we're getting genuinely collaborative bids? Because we think solutions are going to have to be genuinely collaborative. So I'll stop at that stage. And Gavin, I see you've got a hand up, so it'd be great to get a few kind of round of thoughts and questions.
Yeah, sure. Dan, I guess my kind of thing is we have to address this culturally before we address this strategically. And culturally, everybody's, as you say, is going for the bid candy at the moment and really worrying about the outcomes later. As someone like myself, who's probably who's standalone or on their own, a specialist in terms of neurodiversity and what that looks like, particularly with youth transition, it's a bit of a cat in the headlights situation as to how do you go ahead, how do you find that money, how do you go about a bid. Probably need a bit of hand holding, if you like, in terms of accessing that. As you can appreciate, it's quite daunting as a neurodiverse person, but you want diverse people into that conversation. So how can you involve them, and what can you put in place to ensure that happens?
So I was just finishing my sandwich there. So that's that, Gavin. So I don't have an answer to that, but it's exactly, I think, the kind of thing that we want to be thinking about. One of the ideas that we've got is that we will require bidders to sort of demonstrate that what the issue that they're working on, that they want to support with, addresses the needs of at least one group of young people who face particular disadvantage in the labour market. So that would include young people with learning disabilities or other limiting long-term health conditions, young people with experience of the care system, young people with experience of the criminal justice system, young people who are from Black African, Black Caribbean, Bangladeshi or Pakistani backgrounds, young people who are long-term unemployed. So we're not necessarily saying that every bidder must show that they're, in fact, we're not saying every bidder must show that they're sort of have all of those focus groups, but we do want people to be saying, look, we can understand this issue from the perspective of at least one of those groups of really disadvantaged young people, so that the solution that you develop and the kind of bids that we're looking at develop, shift the system in favour of those young people. So I think in that instance, Gavin, if you were part of a bid, we'd be wanting to see that the neurodiverse young people were part of the solution, and we wanted to see that the issue that the bid was trying to grapple with. We want to see how you understood that it mattered to neurodiverse young people. Like how is the thing that you're doing going to address the particular barriers for that group? And that, I think, is what we're going to be asking people is, if you're working with a particular group of young people, show us that this isn't just a sort of, oh, we're doing something general and we think it will help these people, but that it really is meaningful for the barriers that those young people experience. That's why I think organisations like yours are going to be so important in bids, because we need to see bids that really understand the particular barriers and circumstances. Andrew.
Hi, I'm not sure if you can hear me from there. Can you? You can, great. I'll need to speak a little bit quietly because I'm in a job centre at the moment. So talk about being on theme. Just wanted to ask really the size and scope of the projects you're looking for, just so we get an idea of the scale.
Yeah. So ultimately, we are looking to make investments of between, let's say, £1 million and £2 million in a small number of initiatives, of collaborative initiatives. So there's a period we're still working out, and actually be helpful, if people want to kind of have a think about this. We're still working out how much money or support we would provide in this first phase to collaborations to help them develop that bid. It's not going to be that kind of amount of money in the first year, but it might be enough for a full-time post for a year, so that there's someone who can actually help you really build a shared analysis and get partners on board and get young people on board. And we imagine maybe 6 to 12 bids might qualify for that support in the first phase, and then we would be investing maybe in 2 to 4 of those at that level of £1 to £2 million. So that's the sort of resource envelope. Does that answer the question, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it does. Thank you. It's a good indication. And but would it be regionally, or are we looking at one project that covers the whole country, for example, or are we looking at it county-wide, or what's the thinking or the feeling? Because I think you mentioned earlier on that something around local knowledge as well.
So I think what we're it wouldn't be national or probably even regional, partly because of the amount of money that we're looking at, but also because I guess our kind of starting point is for lots of young people who are furthest from the labour market, it isn't just about employment and skill support. It is also about health and care. It's also about criminal justice. It's also about social care as a kind of surrogate parent. It's potentially about family circumstances. And if you're going to pull all the different agencies and levers that you need to wrap around that young person, you're probably going to have to do that in quite a local basis. So we probably expect it'll be, within a single local authority rather than even within a county. Of course, if someone says, well, actually, we've got this incredibly smart way of using digital, for example, to bring together different agencies so that we can collaborate at a bigger geography, we're not saying no to that. But I think we'd really need to be shown that that wasn't just about back office, but it was really helping get holistic wraparound support for the young person. So I envisage, we might see successful bids that are almost like New Deal for community size, like an estate. And we might see successful bids that are, quite a lot bigger than that, and are much more about the plumbing of how services work together. And that's, we're deliberately at the moment being quite agnostic about what people bring to us. And I guess part of what we want to understand in this conversation is how can we, if we're being very open-ended in how can we help you understand what you're bidding for so that you're not wasting your time?
Great, thank you.
See, you've got your hand up.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Dan. Just following on from Andrew about geographies. So appreciate that you're looking at sort of like kind of hyper local potentially. Are there any areas of the country specifically you're focused on, or are there any other area of the countries where you feel there's already significant resource and you won't be supporting in those areas?
Yeah, so it's England only, and we're currently looking at places that are in the bottom half of the IMD. And
sorry, could you repeat that? I think a car went past as you were speaking.
Okay. So we're looking at places that are in the bottom half of the index of multiple deprivation for England, and it's England only. But we're also looking, I guess we're conscious that there are places where the barriers for young people's employment are well out with what we might address. You know, essentially there aren't any jobs, and that actually, if you wanted to support young people into employment, you'd have to be doing really significant work around local economic opportunities, which is not the focus of what we're investing in. We're not trying to get Nissan to come somewhere. So we're actually also saying that if places are in the bottom 20% of that index, we probably won't be supporting them. So it's kind of the middle, the second quarter, you know, not so below half, but above the bottom 20%. We will put a list around. It's about 70 local authorities.
Great, thank you.
I guess a bit what I'd obviously do ask questions. The thing I'd really be interested in, Tracy. Oh, Tracy, lovely, great.
Thank you. Nobody said that for a long time to me. Thank you. Hello. I'm
always happy to see you, Tracy.
Good to see you as well. Dan, I was just wondering with what you're saying, are you really looking for local authority led bids here? I'm thinking about it from our point of view as a social enterprise. How realistic is it for us to pull together all those stakeholders with no definite hook of a couple of £1 million at the end?
So that
you do a lot of work, and you might, you know what I mean?
100% know what you mean, and I guess that's the nub of you put your finger on kind of why I really wanted to have this conversation. We don't want to say, unless you're a local authority, you haven't got the chops to do this, because we know there's plenty of people on this call with the expertise or the insight into the situations of young people that is actually going to be much richer in terms of building that wraparound support. So we don't want it just to be local authorities or, you know, big providers or the kinds of organisations that can easily marshal resources for this sort of bid. But we do want, I guess, I want to avoid you being used as big candy. I want to avoid you wasting a lot of time and effort. And I want to, but I also want to make sure that you've got a genuine opportunity to bid and to be recognised. So one thought that we've had about that is maybe we should be saying bids have to be from at least 3 organisations. And so at least there's some, I guess, what I'm assuming there is people would have made some of those relationships already. So it's at least you're not having to go to that awful thing of like ringing around trying to get onto it. We're sort of saying, look, there's got to be a partnership at the core of this already. One of the other things we're thinking of saying is, as I say, if we put, it's not going to be a large amount of money, but if we were saying, you know, an FTE equivalent and some consultancy or some mobilisation money, maybe actually in a way that's more attractive for your organisation than it is for, you know, Manchester City Council. So potentially it helps put you a bit more in the driving seat. And I guess then we're hoping there are enough of you who've got relationships with employers, FE colleges, training providers, local authorities, that you could get a partnership bid together. Someone's asked about timing, and we're thinking of launching this towards the end of next month and giving 2 to 3 months for people to pull a bid together for that first year. So again, be really helpful. The aim there is don't make it forever, but don't make it desperate. But I guess we're sort of saying if we make it a bit short, it will only be organisations that have already got relationships. You know, I've been so many times in that thing of someone ringing me up and being, "Oh, can you be on?" Because you'll make it look better. I don't want you to all be in that situation. I guess also there's a bit of a sense of if we do it in this 2-phase basis, maybe it's only people that are serious, because in the first year, you might only be talking about, as I say, a relatively small amount of money, hopefully, which in some places will be super useful, because it will actually give you, you know, a coordinator who could make some connections with local government that you don't have them, or make some connections with FE or employers that you don't have. So hopefully it could be a really useful 1 year. But I'm also keen that if people do get this money, even if they don't get the big money, the 1 year is useful. And I hate the kind of, you know, we'll all just be in a beauty contest for another year until we get some proper money. So that, you put your finger exactly on it, Tracy. Some other people put their hands up, so I'm going to just, that's the conversation I'd really love. You know, we don't want to put this money in the world in one of the many ways that are just very burdensome to the sector. So we're really keen to understand from you how we can make it work. Matt, you've spoken before, so I can't see the other hand up.
I do have another question, actually.
Oh, great. Go ahead then, because I can't see the other.
I was actually wondering around target group as well, whether
Yes.
you have any specific age groups. You've spoken a little bit about the needs and the target demographic, but not ages.
So the core would be 16 to 24.
So it's post-secondary education, not necessarily working with schools on the education to employment piece.
So I can envisage someone making a really good case that actually you're never going to get any good outcomes out of Kickstart or traineeships or apprenticeship levies unless you're doing much better connections between secondary and post-secondary traineeships. I think that would be completely legit. I think we'd need to see it actually kind of bearing fruit in terms of what that post-secondary output looked like. Yeah.
Okay.
Tommy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi. I've just missed a bit really. I know that you're targeting the most sort of furthest from the job market, and I just caught you saying that you didn't want to target the sort of the 20% most deprived areas in the country. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because if you take, someone's got their echo on. If you take someone like Blackpool, then, you know, I've been in a situation, Stoke would be another place where you can put quite a lot of money into good services, but the reality is there just aren't any jobs. And the way that young people are going to get jobs is either they're going to move, or somebody's going to put really significant investment into revamping the high street altogether, or into, you know, getting Nissan to put a, you know, factory. Like really significant amounts of public investment. And what we don't want to do is kind of set somebody up to do a lot of work, mobilizing lots of stakeholders, building a shared analysis, getting lots of kind of different actors and agencies together to wrap around young people, and then find that actually it just can't deliver. So I'm being corrected on Blackpool, and that's absolutely fair enough. But you know, in relation, I think that's the logic of it, Tommy, is we want to find places where there's enough give in the system that you could actually change it, not the places that are scrabbling so hard that actually wouldn't generate movement. Carol had a specific question, which was about, so we will launch this, we'll launch the information on the website, and we will also have, you know, a series of kind of events and things. So yes, there'll be lots of opportunities.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'm afraid we're going to have to move on because we've got one other speaker, and then we've got our round table. So thank you very much, Dan, for your time today. And people that have put a couple of people have put contact details in the chat. If you do want to have a follow-up conversation, do that. I'll comb through the chat and find those. That's brilliant. Thank you. I'm one of those, Dan, so that'd be brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you. Okay, and if I could ask Mark and Caitlin to please.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Hi. Sorry.
Not a problem. I'll do the thing that other speakers have done, which is faff around for 30 seconds trying to make the magic happen. But if you can just bear with me whilst I try and.
It feels really precious, doesn't it, when you're waiting for it to kick in? You're just like, oh, come on, hurry up.
Exactly. Yes. Can you see? Has that appeared on your screens at all?
No, I can see just your initials.
Tells me that I'm sharing a window. I'll try again.
I'm happy to try share if needed, Mark, if you can't get it up.
So I'll try it one more time, and if this doesn't work, then I'll ask Caitlin to give it a go. How about that?
Sorry, not yet.
Okay, Caitlin, do you want to have a go? See if you can.
Yeah, I'll have a little go. Can people see that?
I can't, I'm afraid.
No, I can't either. How strange. If it helps, I'm in London, Caitlin's in Leeds, so it's not like we're we're using very different systems as well. So I'm not quite sure what to.
I'm just trying it again. Can people see this one now or not still?
No, not unfortunately not.
I wonder what we could be doing that's makes it wrong. You don't have to enable anything on your side, do you, Francesca?
No, I'm just chairing it. It's ERSA, but
I'm asking Laura that. I don't know why the others could. Laura, any help?
It's fully enabled. All I'd say is if you want to email me, I'll try. I'll attempt to share this end if you need them, or
Yep. What's your email address? Can you pop your email address in the chat and we'll try that?
Yeah.
So your policy at ersa.org.uk.
Yes, please.
So I'll just send that through and I'll just see whether Laura, has it made its way across the country to wherever you are?
Not come through yet. Still nothing.
Are you able to start and then we can hopefully get the slides to catch you up?
Yeah, why not? We'll do it in some sort of impressionistic fashion, or carefully choreographed presentation. So I'll just make sure it's actually gone from this system, or maybe perhaps Caitlin, you can also send it through. I don't know, it's not showing in my outbox for some reason. I don't know whether the entire world has fallen apart in the past few minutes. I was happily watching all these presentations and they've all gone, but I'll start explaining, and Caitlin, maybe you can see if you can get the email through to Laura as well. So my name's Mark Whitmer, I'm the Chief Executive of Uprising, and my colleague Caitlin Diskin is here as well. I'm based in London, as I said, and Caitlin up in Leeds. I've never actually met Caitlin because I started in the organisation on the 1st of April. What I'm going to try and do is give you a brief overview of a programme that we've been working on over the past 6 months, and which delivered its first couple of sessions, the first cohort in the end of July through to August. So Standout itself is funded by the Youth Futures Foundation. It's a partnership with Uprising, which is we are a social mobility charity, an incubated part of our organisation, which is called 1 Million Mentors, which is a mentoring platform, and a social mobility charity based in Manchester called Reclaim. We've been funded over the course of the 12-month to 18-month period to run a version of a programme that we've been running for the past 5.5 years called Fastlaners. Fastlaners supported 550 young people into employment, strengthening their employability within the job market and helping them find and secure meaningful jobs. Standout is bigger, and YFF have supported us to take this to a little bit of a bigger scale. So our goal is to work with 400 young people over the course of this year, and we ran our first cohort in July. The work itself has some wraparound evaluation as part of it, quite a major piece of evaluation funded by YFF, and we're taking part in what's called an impact with pilot study, and that's to see whether the work that we're doing can be evaluated by an external evaluator. In this case, another 3-letter acronym, an organisation called IFF that some of you may be familiar with. In terms of the first cohort itself, just to give you an overall flavour of the work that we did, we had 173 applications to the programme, 24% of those from the Northwest, 21% of those from the West Midlands, and about 33% from London. About 2/3 of all the young people who are on the programme come from Black, Asian or minority ethnic backgrounds. The programme itself has been built with quite a lot of involvement from young people, not least the previous participants who over the course of the year, supported by the Social Mobility Commission, we've been working with to design the programme. But also quite a big network of companies and volunteers. Every participant on the programme benefits from up to 34.5 hours of volunteer time from volunteers who are drawn from 23 businesses that range from Arup, Mayer Brown, PwC, Siemens, AMX, LexisNexis, and so on and so forth, all across the country. Hurrah! The screen has appeared with some slides. That's fantastic. So if you could go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. So having given you a little bit of a flavour of the numbers of people involved, Caitlin will tell you a little about what actually goes into Standout, and I'll hand over to Caitlin now. Caitlin.
Fantastic, thanks Mark. So yeah, there's a lot of different components to the Standout programme, which are just outlined, bullet pointed there, and I'll go into detail about a few more of them. So it's 4 weeks of skills-based workshops followed by up to 12 months of mentoring from a dedicated trained mentor. The skills-based workshops are like the primary aim is to equip young people with the skills to get them into a job, and so these workshops include but are not limited to how to stand out in your CV, how to ace that interview, how to stay resilient during the job hunt, and also how to stand out in a virtual world, so how to conduct yourself on an online interview. And that is all complemented by one-on-one support from our volunteers that Mark's just been speaking about. So our volunteers come in and they do one-on-one CV feedback and mock interview sessions with our young people. Now, based on the feedback that we've had from young people from our previous programmes, for our upcoming programme, which is in October, we'll also be holding a mock assessment centre and some application support drop-in centres, because that's what our young people have told us that they would like to see on the programme. We'll also hold free careers fairs throughout the programme, so that's where we get industry professionals coming in, and then our young people get to not only network with these industry professionals, they also get dedicated career advice, insider knowledge about various recruitment processes, and also access to live job opportunities. Our young people also get a career coach, and we let them work with the career coach in small groups, so that's with other young people, and that's to help them grow their networks with the peers on the programme and to build a sense of community across England. And this is all complemented by them having exclusive access to our participant learning zone. So our sessions run online, but we record every single session and we put that on the participant learning zone for the young people to access after the programme. So maybe they're on a 0 hours contract and the hours shift change in day to day, they can't access every session live. That's why we've got the participant learning zone, which has those sessions on there, and also some further exclusive content and some independent tasks that they can do as well to kind of complement the learning. If we could go on to the next slide, please. So these are just a few organisations that we've been working on to kind of spread the word about Standout. So historically, Uprising has worked in Birmingham, Bedfordshire, Manchester and London, but this is a programme that will be running England-wide. So as you can see on this slide, it's quite a range of organisations that we've been working with. There's a huge amount of other ones as well, but I thought this would just give a good example about like the geographical range of organisations that we're working with as well, to really spread the word to young people and kind of reach every young person that we feel could benefit from the programme. I'll pick out Care Leavers Covenant, which is just a top one there, as an example of an organisation we've been working closely with over the last couple of weeks. So they work with young care leavers across England, and obviously this is a group that we really want to benefit from the Standout programme. So with the Care Leavers Covenant, we've managed to produce some tailored communication specifically for young care leavers, telling them about the programme, and we've also decided that we will have a named point of contact for care leavers whilst on the programme. So if they've got any questions or queries whilst on the programme, they have a member of staff to turn to and to build that relationship with. So we're really keen on working with other organisations. So this is obviously not limited. We're still obviously in the process of talking to different organisations, seeing how we can help the young people that they work with as well. Next slide, please. So I don't know if the next slide has shown up or if it is. Cheers, thank you. Thanks, Laura. So we've got a few bits of feedback from both the young people that we've been working with, but also the coaches and volunteers we've been working with. We've just highlighted in bold there just some key points, and I'll just let people read this feedback as I talk you through it. So this is from Rebecca. Rebecca has just completed the Standout programme. She massively improved her confidence over the programme. She set herself small goals, such as posting our Slack channels, which is how we communicate with young people, setting up a LinkedIn profile. She's managed to post on LinkedIn as well, which for Rebecca was a huge achievement. So it's really exciting to get this feedback from Rebecca and stay in touch with her and see where she goes in the future. If we could go to the next slide, please, that would be great. Thank you so much. So again, these are just a few little quotes from both a Standout coach and also a Standout volunteer, just to see what they said about the programme, and just so that it comes not only from us about the skills that the young people grew in, but also from people who have been working directly with the young people on the programme. So again, I think the key Standout theme is the confidence there. It's come up in every single quote that we've got. The one from the volunteer there talks about a participant asking for a follow-up session to work on a cover letter after they worked with him on the CV feedback session as well. If we could go to the next slide, that would be great, please. Thank you so much. So this is actually the young person that reached out to that volunteer and who wanted to work on the cover letter. So this is Zeph. As you can see from Zeph's photo, he is a huge animal lover. And I'll just quickly outline you his story when it comes to Standout. So he was unemployed for 3 years before doing the programme. He was looking for both casual work, but he also really wants to work in the veterinary industry. And he'd been looking for veterinary placements and also trying to apply to get into veterinary colleges as well. So Standout has now given him the confidence to do that again. He described feeling very deflated after been looking for a job for so long and not really getting anywhere. And also he noted that during the lockdowns, he couldn't really get that work experience that he needed. So he's now feeling a lot more resilient in his job search, and he's just started the mentoring phase of the Standout programme. We had some good news from Zeph last week. He's just received a conditional offer for veterinary nursing at the College of Animal Welfare, and he's now in the process of looking for a placement to complement his studies. So it's really exciting for us to see how the Standout programme helped Zeph to achieve that, and also where he's going to be going in the future. And we'll keep up to date with him on his journey, and hopefully he will become a veterinary nurse in the near future. If we could go to the next slide, please, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So yeah, like I mentioned already, that we're working with quite a lot of different organisations across the country. We're really keen to continue those relationships, and there's so many different ways that we would like young people to find out about the programme. We've got all sorts of newsletters and social media templates to send out to young people. We've got flyers that we can give to people to give directly to young people, or if you've got a building that's open, you can pop them in the building for young people to come and pick them up. We're always more than happy to speak at any events where there's young people directly there, and we're also running some information events where young people can come directly to us and they can hear from staff members and alumni about what they can get out of the programme. We've also got our website at the bottom there, which is westandout.uk, which has got everything that you need in terms of information, and it's also got a link to the application button as well. And Mark, I will pass it back to yourself there.
Thanks very much indeed, Caitlin. And just to give a little bit more context again on the applicants that we've supported, because the programme is entirely run online, and that's been the work that the Social Mobility Commission and others have supported us to undertake over the course of the year. About 86% of the young people who are on the programme right now are in some form of precarious work, unemployed, 0 hours contracts, or part-time work of one description or another. And one of the things that we've had continual feedback about is the usefulness of the online resources, the value of the community that's created, and the ability that young people have to engage around the lives that they already have. And that was a key piece of insight that we'd received right at the beginning of COVID. And I think some of the colleagues from Manchester at the beginning were talking about the poll that they'd conducted, and those figures very much mirrored our own experience. When we asked young people, what do you care about? They said employability number 1 and climate number 2. And the challenge for us over the course of this year has been to take a programme that's got a good track record face-to-face and really run it online. So we're excited by the fact that we've been through the first programme. It's been designed to operate at a degree of scale, and if there's anything that anybody can do in terms of you have contacts or young people who you feel would be suitable for this programme, then we'd be really pleased to work with you. A colleague in the chat asked whether we had anybody who was interested in working in rural communities. The answer is not yet, and we'd love to. And we've also had a question about, do you know how many of your participants, I can't see the rest of it, live? Yes, in rural areas. So we have mapped all of the 173, and we've got really good data on that. And if I had the map to show you, you'd see that they've concentrated big clumps in the areas that we have historically worked, so London, Bedford, Birmingham and Manchester. But what's really interesting, and one of the things that we found has been super helpful about Standout, is that we've got people all over the place, and a lot of people who have said to us they're 2 hours away from a city centre, or they're a £15 bus ride return, to get to where they need to be, or a train ride or whatever. So quite a lot of the attraction of Standout from our point of view is it engages with people who otherwise wouldn't be able to do so. And William, you asked, is there a set number of young people you will work with over the upcoming 12-month period? We hope to work with 400. We've worked with 173 so far, 173 applicants, and the goal is to reach 400. We've got the next programme begins on the 4th of October, yeah, is there anything else I should say on that front, Caitlin, about the next programme? I think that's probably all I need to tell you, other than go to westandout.uk, and if you're interested in partnering, we'd be very interested in having that conversation.
Yeah, and I've just popped myself and Mark's emails in the chat there as well. So if people do want to get in touch, we've made a note of everybody who's reached out us in the chat there, so we'll be in touch with all of you. But if anybody else wants to be in touch, then I've put our emails there as well.
Peter, you've asked a question about access to computers and devices, and I'll just answer that one if I can. So we have had some support from Siemens who've extended an offer to provide that support. We've also done quite a lot of work surveying all the young people who've come onto the programme, and about 85% of them have had access to either a smartphone or a laptop somewhere that they can get to, and in one case we're accessing it from a local library. We've designed the tools that we use to make sure that they're as widely accessible to young people as possible, but also so that they reflect workplaces that young people might find themselves in. So we're not a digital access charity, but we think that we're able to support quite a lot of young people who are on it, and about a third of the cohort had quite significant welfare needs in some way, shape or form, including neurodiversity and other issues that people identified.
That's brilliant. Thank you ever so much, both of you, for a really great presentation. I will definitely be in touch. So we're quickly running out of time. So we have about 20 minutes left to do the Youth Hub round table. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth.
Yeah, and actually on this very hot afternoon, when we've got some people who've left us already, maybe we could just do a short version of this and reconvene. But as you will know, we have a Youth Hubs forum. We've had Tammy Fevrier from the DWP, who leads on youth employment, come and speak to us. And we've had some Youth Forum meetings, which Francesca Pryor has chaired, and they've been really great events. So this afternoon's the Youth Employment Forum. And it is our intention longer term to sort of merge the youth hubs work into this. But we thought it'd be interesting to have a round table discussion this afternoon to sort of gauge how many ERSA members are now actively involved with youth hubs as the world starts to open up again. So it would be really good to hear from people that are involved with their local youth hubs, where the youth hub is, what the activity is. But on this very hot afternoon, an hour and 40 minutes into the meeting, I am aware that it might be sensible to schedule the Youth Hubs Forum and to lengthen the discussion then. But I don't want to not do it today. I'm not trying to get out of that. So can I go over to you and raise your hands as usual on our Teams calls? Anybody who's involved with the local Youth Hub, just tell us what you're doing, what that co-location with Job Centre Plus looks like, what impact you think that's having on young people. And I can see Francesca's put a hand up right away, and I can see Jane Wilson's put something in the chat. And I think it'd be good to hear from both of them. So shall we go over to you? Francesca, then Jane?
Okay, no problems. So I just thought it would be worth, we've kind of, things have moved on. So we've had our first, our physical launch. So we've actually opened up, we're now open for people to walk in, which is very exciting rather than everyone having to sort of pre-book and things. So the launch itself went really, really well. Certainly the co-location with DWP, I am really, really lucky. I've got some amazing DWP work coaches, and that part of the relationship is not a problem. I think the more challenging part for us is the management structure within DWP. That for us is a real barrier and very, very frustrating. And I know that several people that I've spoken to outside of the forum, you know, information sharing remains a massive issue. So for us, those are the main sort of barriers, but everything else is going on really well. We're getting some really good feedback from young people when they're coming into the space. They're finding it welcoming and everything else. In fact, everybody's getting ready to go to an event now, hence the crashing, I'm sorry. We're doing a Care Leavers event later on this afternoon, well, in 20 minutes. It's working really well, and certainly we've got our first forum for young people in Southampton. So clients who are current, old clients, potential clients, but also young adults who are employees. We're getting them all together in a forum so that we can start to co-develop that next sort of phase of the hub. So really exciting, still very happy, and it's going from strength to strength. That's all I wanted to say, really.
Brilliant. Jane, do you want to just update us?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of slightly behind that. We're hoping to launch ours in November. We seem to have been talking about it for forever, but obviously with COVID and red tape and all the rest of it, it's taken quite a long time. But we're hoping to, like I say, launch ours physically in November. We've identified a space, so we're going to work, we cover Worcestershire, so we're going to have the main hub in Worcester City. We've got a space in the library there, and then the plan is going forward that we'll have sort of satellite hubs in other areas. So we're working with DWP and obviously all our partners to get that set up. We've got a plan, we've got the space, so it's just working out with DWP, our SLA really, and agreeing on that, who's going to pay for what. Yeah, so that's where we are. So yeah, we're looking at November. So it's really interesting to hear where everyone else is really.
Okay, and of course what we are going to do as we get into October is to do just a youth hubs meeting where we sort of share what's happening and share some good practice. But I can see there's one opening in Westminster on the 20th of September. Does anybody want to tell us a little bit about that? I'm afraid I can't see that top of the chat anymore. So anybody who wants to share, just please, you can open your camera, open your microphone. Just trying to, like, you know, get people to tell us what was going on before we closed the meeting. I did see Vanda's name, so we'll come back to Vanda, but let's do Westminster first.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, everybody. I'm Carol Morgan. I'm the Head of Partnerships with Westminster Adult Education Service. And together with St Marylebone Job JCP, we will be launching our Youth Hub on the 20th of September. We're going to have a couple of local dignitaries, a couple of the local councillors come along. So we really want to make a great event of it. It's something that we're all excited about doing. It's something that already local partners are wanting to engage and co-locate to attract that particular cohort as well, because there's a lot of opportunities for that age group, but it seems that they're all being heading towards the Kickstart opportunities. So whatever we can do to actually open up some other opportunities for them, we're more than happy to do it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carol. Vanda.
Hiya. We are not up and running yet. we made a decision a couple of months ago to bid for Community Renewal Fund money to kind of get our youth hub off the ground, really, because the local authority, we just don't have any premises, so we don't have anything that remotely resembles a place where young people could go. So we had to find a source of funding to pay for that. So we're waiting on the CRF announcement, as I know loads of other people are, before we can begin our youth hub. But as soon as we get that announcement, and if it's positive, we've identified premises in the town centre. We're going to convert a retail unit, actually, which is down the side of the council's kind of flagship offices at Bickerstaff House. So we've identified the space, we've organised the lease, we're going to recruit staff specifically for the youth hub, so that we will have dedicated youth employment advisors in our hub. So probably 3, a senior employment advisor, a youth hub coordinator to bring all the partners together, and then 2 co-located DWP work coaches. And obviously CRF's quite short-term funding. It's only till March unless they decide to extend it because the decision's been delayed. But what we're trying to do then is to secure town deal money to roll the youth hub along then for probably another 18 months. So we think altogether we're trying to fund a youth hub with the staff and the premises for just over 2 years. And then I think it will all depend where things are. You know, is youth unemployment still a big priority for DWP, or, you know, have we recovered enough? Our businesses gone back to business as usual? And actually, so we've been monitoring the numbers of young people on universal credit since we started kind of the bidding process, and we've gone from almost 2,000 to about 1,450 now for July. So it's coming down on its own without a youth hub, but obviously we know that, and our youth hub is 16 to 24, and we're trying to target, I guess we're calling them the middle group, the kind of the young people who need more support than a work coach can give. So they need maybe more intensive support, but they're not at the very complex end either, because our assumption is that a lot of those young people need support from other agencies before they can start thinking about work. But eventually they'll come to the youth hub once things have calmed down for them. So that's about it, really. I think DWP really wants us to get the youth hub going, and so do we, but it is just an issue of funding for us at the moment.
Great, thanks, Vanda. Elizabeth, I can see your hand raised.
Hello,
Yes.
everyone. Hi. Yes, I am the employability officer at Lambeth Council. And at the moment, I coordinate youth promise, specifically the area of the youth hubs. We have now 4 youth hubs in Lambeth. Hopefully, we will have 1 or 2 more in a couple of months. It has been very interesting because we have started really on full lockdown. So we started first just delivering online services to the young people, and now we have been moving more to face-to-face, but we are still providing like a hybrid service where sometimes it will be like online and will be also face-on-face. Pretty much also focused right now in Kickstart. Supporting everyone that is interested in applying for Kickstart, but we are also looking at ways that we can develop that one, because of course Kickstart is only the funding is for 6 months, coming and end in December. And then we will have all these people that are going through Kickstart that will be looking for work and hopefully for apprenticeship. So it's just looking forward how it's going to have continuity, all the work that we are doing at the moment, because it very much feel like that is the first step. It has to continue. It has been very challenging in the area of engagement. I think that because we are coming out of the lockdown, people got used of doing everything online. So it has been more challenging across all the sector in Lambeth for DWP and all the other providers to be able to engage with young people really. So any suggestions and comments are more than welcome. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Gavin, I can see your hand raised, and then does anybody else want to raise a hand before we start drawing this to a close?
Yeah, it's been a great session so far. I'd like to connect with Elizabeth there in Lambeth, myself being dyspraxia Lambeth myself. So hopefully we can connect. I will email you, Elizabeth, on that. I'm just thinking overall, some of the resources that have been mentioned today, Elizabeth, maybe we can reflect those on the ERSA website. And if people can reflect that on, send them to Laura, maybe we can use those as a benchmark, some of them, for how we engage youth and neurodiverse youth transitioning. And there's been some great ideas today. I'm sure if you agree with that, Elizabeth, if you have any further ideas about how youth can transition successfully into the world of work, we're very much interested in hearing from you, as I've been recruited to support the neurodiversity website on ERSA, and supporting Elizabeth and her team.
Okay, so too many Elizabeths in this world at the moment, aren't there? But there can never be too many of us. So yeah, thanks to Elizabeth from Lambeth. We can see her emails in the group chat, so that's good. If there are no more hands raised, oh, Andrew, wait, there are. Andrew, please come in.
Just a bit of a comedy moment, really, to finish the day off. I've just been interviewing today at the Job Centre for Kickstart, and we had a young lady that had come to interview, and she'd never worked before. She hadn't been to college or university, and she hadn't got any experience at all about any particular job at all. However, she'd love to have a remote working job and stay at home. So these are some of the challenges I think that we're all facing. So a nice little jokey story to finish the session with.
All right, thank you. Oh, I think we've got somebody else. I don't know whether, I think it's William, is it? And one other.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, it's just on Andrew's point, funnily enough, I'm the employer engagement officer at Lewisham's new youth hub, and we've found the opposite. In terms of if you're offering work from home kickstarts, people are actually more inclined to turn them down, is what we've been finding, unfortunately. So yeah, maybe send your one over our way. I don't know where you're based.
Okay. Well, there's two things that Laura's put in the chat. One is that we are going to reconvene with a Youth Hubs Forum on the 5th of October in the afternoon. So hold that afternoon, please. And secondly, Laura, I think you just posted some, I think she's posted some links in the chat, and yeah, I think we're all hot and we should draw this to a close. So thanks to the speakers, thanks to Francesca for chairing so ably. And the other thing I've now remembered, since the heat is now getting to me, that Laura's put Ask Seth in the meeting chat to make sure that anybody who's with us today, make sure you get your provision on the website. Okay, so job seekers can find you and tick youth if that's a particular area of interest. Okay, right, thanks everybody. Really enjoyable session. Thanks everyone. Hope we can all cool down a little this evening. Okay, bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.